Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider podcast. It's great to be with you today. I'm here at team headquarters, where literally just moments ago, Antonio Pierce finished with his weekly Monday press conference. It was a very good press conference. We've got all of that video up for you. The audio, if it's not up, it's coming momentarily so you can listen to everything that he had to say. We certainly discussed the business decisions, comments that he made yesterday, non-committal, lukewarm, probably at best is how I would describe it on the possibility of a QB change. But let's not pretend anyone blaming yesterday on Gardner Minshew, I think, is just looking for a scapegoat. There's plenty of blame to go around. Uh, I'm just telling you, I don't think it was all on Gardner Minshew at all. I think the Raiders had issues that were bigger than Gardner Minshew, but sometimes you just make a quarterback change because you're looking to shake things up, and that's a very big deal as well. So, anyways, some very interesting things came out of it. I am going to tell you this: we know, and I'm going to read. I want to just double check my text to make sure that I have it exactly correct. But we do know that Marcus Epps um, uh, is out. He has an ACL injury, and Thayer Mumford. That's what I was looking at. Thayer Mumford. Still no word yet, as of the taping of this podcast, on his situation. I will tell you that after the game, there was more optimism on Thayer than there was with Marcus. But that's the situation of where it all sits right now. Isaiah Palomau, who we'll talk about in a minute, will be the next man up there at the safety position. But again, we'll get into all of that here momentarily. We're dealing with the day after the debacle. There is no other way to categorize yesterday's loss by the Raiders to the Carolina Panthers than a debacle. There is nothing wrong with losing a game in the National Football League, but to lose it that way, where, I mean, Max Crosby's literally hobbling. And when asked today, let's just go through some of the things that AP talked about. He talked about, he meant to be very direct. Pat McAfee talked a lot about his business decisions comment. It's got a lot of attention nationally. And I think it should have. I don't think anybody did a disservice talking about it. And he said, yeah, I'm a very direct person and I'm going to call a spade a spade. I mentioned after the game yesterday that I think Raider Nation should walk away after yesterday's press conference very enthusiastic about Antonio Pierce. Now, it was only his third head coach, his only third game as the head coach. Everything else was as an intern. That's why we give guys 20 games. If you wanted AP and now you're bitching and moaning, you, you're wrong, because this is one thing we talked about. When you want a coach that doesn't have head coaching experience, or you want somebody that has limited, there's going to be a growing pain. But I mean, how many times over the years have you watched Raiders coaches? Well, we just got to watch the film. They don't call anybody out. No, it's not how AP rolls. It's not how he lives. It's not how he operates. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And I think it's what an organization like the Raiders needed. Do you think Al Davis would have stepped up? Well, we just got to review the film and we'll take care of everything internally. No, he wouldn't have. When did he ever? I think that was a good move by him. I asked him point blank, you talked about business decisions. Have you made any of those yet? He said, not yet. Not anything else. Just not yet. Very emphatic. Someone asked him if he regretted saying those terms. He goes, no, I don't bite my tongue. I loved it. It's coming right back. He did say, though, he feels like there needs to be a lot of changes, which I think is a very good thing. He talked about a lack of effort, a lack of energy, and a lack of passion. This is a man that lives his entire life with energy, effort, and passion, and that is the only thing he's going to tolerate. I want to make it very abundantly clear. There is no spinning. Yesterday was a debacle. Plus, I don't spin. But if you're looking for something that can come out of that, it's a coach that put a flag in the ground and made an emphatic statement of what his expectations are. And then put the team right and his staff. Now, I've seen coaches that would call out players but not call out their staff. I've seen coaches that would call out their uh, staff but not their players. He called everybody out, and good for him. He should have. What Raider Nation fan base, and again, this is AP being as genuine as he is. He talked about that crowd was so good on Sunday, it was almost like an old school Raider crowd, and they blew it. And now you've got Cleveland coming in that I believe 65%, and it could be higher, of that crowd are going to be Browns fans. They already travel great. There already are huge groups that were already planning on coming, and a bunch of Raider fans that showed up at that game that were completely disappointed. There was a complete lack of effort from the team. So why should they not sell their tickets and try to recoup some of their money? This could be a 75 or 80% Browns crowd. And there'll be no one to blame but the Raiders. Uh, just a fact. Um, other than Max Crosby, he talked about he was disappointed with all other 10 defensive players. Made it very clear. Max can't do everything. And, you know, but he did say, when asked about protecting Max from Max, he said 80% of Max is better than most. And if he's not going to, re injure himself or make the injury worse, and he wants to play, you go with him. And I back that decision completely. If it's not going to make it worse, and I know Max, you go with him. Um, you know, the thing is, the Raiders are missing three people on basically three. Tyree's out, Kuntz is out, and Max is hampered. So there is a lot of room on that defensive line for some guys to get some shots, but they're missing a lot, and there's no excuses. This is the National Football League. Next man up, but they got to get it fixed quick. DJ Glaze, I talked to you about him yesterday after the game, and I told you that I obviously a bad sack, but I wanted to go back and review the film. But I thought he had played well, and AP agreed with me. And after I watched it again, I think he played very well. You know, not perfect, but a rookie thrown in there. Yeah, I thought he did really well. I was impressed with him. I think you got to get um, JPJ some reps on the left side, or keep him at the right and move Dylan to the left, because Dylan's been playing well. I know he's not 100% healthy, but he's still been playing well. But they got to shore up the offensive line quickly. Um, I want to talk about uh, Isaiah Palomar for a minute, because he's going to be stepping up for Epps. And I really like IPM. I really like his game. Tremendous young man, by the way. And this kid is talented. I told you the Raiders were even running him in some uh, foreigner packages during training camp. This is a kid that's been waiting for an opportunity. This is his shot now. Remember, Epps is going to be fine. He'll be able to play in 25, but he's going to be a free agent. This is a chance for IPM to come in, and some younger safeties on this team, Chris Smith, Trey Taylor, to be able to come in, step in eventually, and somebody to seize this opportunity. There's playing time here now. Epps is a huge loss, But every single time there's a huge loss, there's great opportunity. Remember, there was depression in the Patriots when when Drew Bledsoe went down and they found a Tom Brady. I mean, nobody wants to see what happens to Epps. Great guy. But this is where the National Football League becomes potentially very special. Very special. So this is going to be a very interesting time to watch. Again, AP said he had a problem with the entire defense other than Max Crosby. Um, again, I'd say lukewarm at best at the quarterback position. And it's going to be interesting to watch how this falls out. Now, the one thing that I love about the National Football League is that unless it's a bye week, I mean, there's no time to pout. There's no time to lick your wounds. I can tell you today, and it's going to go on about 4 o'clock here Pacific, but there's going to be a team meeting. And the players have already been talking amongst themselves, but there's going to be a team meeting. Um, and there's going to be I think there's going to be some paint peeled off those walls. AP is going to unload, and he's got a lot of things to talk about. But one thing he is not going to tolerate is a lack of effort. And you saw it all over the field yesterday. Not from every player, but you certainly saw it from certain individuals, a lack of effort and guys not giving it. And that's not going to be tolerated, period. Antonio Pierce isn't going to tolerate that. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how this unfolds. It's going to be very interesting to watch. And the Raiders have a huge test. Again, 65 to probably 70% of that crowd on Sunday is going to be Browns fans, and they are going to be very, very loud. It's going to be like a road game. Nobody to blame but them. And they're going to have to make it right. The Raiders should win on Sunday. They're a better team, talent wise, than Cleveland. But if you learned anything from the game on Sunday, is that the Raiders are not good enough to have to go beat another team and beat themselves. And they're certainly not good enough to just show up and have the other team lay down. Cleveland's 1-2 now also. There's blood in the water. There is blood in the proverbial Raider water. And the Raiders have to determine, is this a superficial wound, which is not a big deal, and they get their fight back and win this game, which they should? Or do they let it become a mortal wound? Do they now allow one loss to become two? We've talked about this at length about understanding. Nick Saban was so fond of teaching this. You have to have a short memory. You can't let one loss become two because you're still pouting. How do the Raiders respond? They're in a part of the schedule right now where there's some wins here that they should be able to stack. And two of the three games that they've played this year, both games that they've lost, were games that very winnable. The Raiders should be 3-0 right now. Instead, they're 1-3. And if they're instead they're 1-2, and looking at 1-3 against the Cleveland team they should beat. But if they perform like this, they are going to get their butts handed to them on Sunday. I'm going to tell you how I would really equate this. This game coming up Sunday is a pride check for this team. Where are they? Hey, you win Sunday. It doesn't mean you're going to get to 10 wins, which I predicted. It just means, though, that you responded. There's some pride to a bad loss. You go out there and get manhandled again, then I think you have real issues much bigger than the loss of one game. We are going to learn a ton about the 2024 Raiders next week with the Browns in town. A ton. It's going to be a massive statement. Christian Wilkins talked about the game being disappointing, but he said something that I loved. Someone asked him, is this one of those issues you don't want to watch the film? His exact answers was, yeah, you want to watch the film. You got to be a grown man and look at this. I love his mentality. I love it. And so I think there is a lot here to digest by this team. There doesn't need to be a lot of talking this week. There needs to be a lot of doing. The Raiders are 3 games in. 3. I'm sure that I have, but I don't ever remember covering an NFL season, and I don't remember it, but I'm sure I have, saying that game 4 was a must win. But you go down 1-3, and now you've lost 3 games to teams you should have beat. You have buried yourself in a hole. And I think AP's response was exactly the right thing. AP is a fan. And so he allowed to publicly be displayed the anger of the fans because he's one of you and he feels it. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And what I loved is I had several people say to me, "Oh, I expect AP." I shared this with you last night. Um, Walking down into the press room after the game last night, somebody said, "Oh, I wonder how he's going to try not to answer it." I said, "He's going to answer it. That's AP. He takes everything heads on. He doesn't spin. He's not a politician." And today, someone said, because there was so much talk nationally about his people making business decision comments, someone said to me, "Do you expect AP to walk it back?" Heck no. I said, "No, that's not him." And he didn't. Remember, there's nothing, you don't want stress, but pressure's good. This team's under pressure now. It can't just be Max Crosby. And God bless Max Crosby out there injured, still fighting. He doesn't know anywhere else. But you saw some guys that weren't injured that weren't fighting. Shame on them. These are grown pro football players, paid a lot of money. There's no excuse. And there isn't any. There isn't any. If you're sitting here today and you just lost to the Chiefs or the Ravens, okay, you just lost to Carolina. You just made Andy Dalton look like 2007 Tom Brady. No, no, it's not right. And listen, I don't think Andy Dalton's a bad quarterback, but I don't think Andy Dalton had all the weapons around him like Tom Brady did in 07. And you just made it look like there was a plethora of weapons. Raiders are in gut check time right now. Right now is gut check time. This season is got a couple more weeks of games that are doable. Then you get into the meat of the schedule, where wins are just going to be brutal. And you fall in a hole in this part, and you're burying yourself so deep that it just turns into another year where, okay, the Raiders somehow have to pull a rabbit out of their hat to make something happen. Well, it doesn't have to be this difficult. Now, I'm going to address the subject, 2 of them right now. I predicted a Raiders win, and I thought there would be. 100% I predicted it. Boy, was I wrong. I had not seen a Raider team perform like this under Antonio Pierce. I still think this is a 10-win football team. The talent is there. And I've said it from day one. If this team doesn't get to that 9, 10 plateau wins, it's a failure. It's a failure, period. And the time for talk is over. If you want people to take you seriously, all training camp, we heard about all the disrespect for people predicting the Raiders record. Okay. I thought some of those predictions were very much disrespectful as well. But go win. I'll give you a great example. Early in the game, I had people uh, message me or email or text, why is the crowd booing when Zamir White was introduced? And then early in the game, when he did something, people were Zeus. And I tweeted out, for those asking, the crowd isn't booing, they're saying Zeus. Okay. Well, I had some real geniuses tweeting at me today. Oh, you're making excuses. The crowd really was booing. And I'm giving you a few of them. There was a lot more. Well, okay, geniuses, because you don't have the intellectual capability of going back and looking when a tweet was made. It was early in the game before the boos started. I clearly called out and said the boos were there and should have been. Quite frankly, I thought Raider Nation was almost too generous. I mean, early in the fourth quarter, and they're still loud, trying to pump some energy into their team. Okay. But you know what? I don't care what people say. I know when I tweeted it. It's all that mattered. So you just let it go, mute. But if you're the Raiders now and you don't like what everyone's prediction was for your record of the year, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Go shut their mouth. My brother Greg and I were young, and he was 8 years old, 7 years older, 8 years older than me, excuse me, 8 years older than me. And he came home from the Navy and he'd been picking on me and picking on me and picking on me. And I kept going to my dad. And my dad said, "You don't like your brother picking on you? Shut his mouth. Don't come to me crying." My brother had gone off to the Navy. I was in fifth grade, I think. Yeah, I was in fifth grade. He'd graduated, went on to the Navy, and he comes home from leave and he's picking on his little brother. And my dad warned my brother. He said, "Your little brother's getting bigger. You better be careful." So lo and behold, he kept picking on me, picking on me, and all of a sudden, wham, I hit him, broke his ribs. He didn't pick on me after that. Say, what's the point? Here's the point. If you want respect, go do what Al Davis says and take it. How do you take it? By running over teams that you're supposed to beat, like the Bolts. And you've now lost 2 games with a definitive home crowd at SoFi, Allegiant Southwest, and home on Sunday. Now, because of your performance, you've turned Sunday, it's going to be an away game. You want respect, you got to win these ones. It's real simple. The day after the debacle, go take it. You want respect, go take it. Go take it. Your coach isn't pleased, and he shouldn't be. Your coach is not just a guy taking a paycheck. I saw Ed Ogeron, who was the coach at LSU. And if you haven't seen this, Google it. He talks about they came in and said, "Coach, things aren't working out. We're probably going to have to let you go, but we're going to pay your several $1 million buyout." And he says, "Thank you, sir. What door you want me to leave out of?" That's not Antonio Pierce. He cares. He's not looking for a buyout. And he's a fan and a coach. He's as angry, pissed off, mad as any of you. And a lot of you guys who wanted him let him down on Sunday. Certainly not all. It was individuals. He did not call his team out. but you let them down. You let your owner down. The day after the debacle, simple. Don't take what you want and take it now. You're better than the Browns. You should beat the Browns. But oh, by the way, you were better than the Bolts and better than the Panthers, and you lost to both of them with a definitive home crowd. But hey, maybe you're going to be comfortable on Sunday with a very pro opposing team crowd. I don't think that's what they wanted, but it's what they got. You want respect? Go take it. You don't want it given anyways. You don't want that entitlement mentality. You want that take it mentality. It's time for this team to look in the mirror and realize they're Raiders. It's time to act like it.